Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Evo Rey, and welcome to my podcast, Chilerísimo. Para todos los que han escuchado anteriormente mi podcast, primero, gracias por hacerlo. Y segundo, esta serie, que se titula Bitácoras, va a estar principalmente en inglés por la simple razón de que tengo que mejorar mi comunicación tanto en español, que lo hago en los episodios principales, como en inglés, que por eso es que hago esta serie. Pero los episodios principales van a seguir en español. Ah, Eso lo quiero dejar claro. Y esta nueva serie va a estar primera, principalmente se va a hablar en inglés o va a estar hablando inglés. Y probablemente en esta serie habilite lo más antes que pueda los subtítulos en español para que ustedes también me puedan entender. So I am super excited to launch this first episode of my new series, Bitácoras, which is basically an analysis over a period of 2 weeks. The week that just passed and the week that is coming. So here we will look into the present of my journey in life, basically, and I'll share updates in my entrepreneurial, spiritual, physical, and emotional part of it. So let's get started. Cool. So today is July 21st, 2025. I am 20 years old, 1 month and 4 days before I'm 21. And no, don't get ideas of me going crazy, because that won't happen. Don't get any ideas now. I ain't about to lose all control because I'm turning 21, which is basically the expectation from, peers and even family members of, going crazy at 21. But that's definitely not how I want to roll. So I'm gonna give you like a little overview of my last week. So we got Monday, July the 14th. I officially opened a broker and trading account, which is basically the main thing I'm gonna be doing these next days. I've talked about it with my mentor, which I do have a mentor. He's from Colombia, and I've been training with him for the last two to 2.5 months, and I've went through his seminars, his training. I went through simulation with paper money, and for the ones that don't know what paper money is, it's basically the same as a broker account, but with fake money, and it allows you to like trades on real time to see which strategies works, or also to measure and practice your timing when it comes to going into trades and exiting out. So I went through all that, and he thinks I'm ready. I'm also really confident that I'm ready to become profitable. So we'll see what happens. That was my Monday. Then we have Tuesday, which was July 15th. I started to develop a money cycle system. So I was talking with my mentor and hearing from other entrepreneurs and business owners that what you essentially want is not for the money to stay stagnant or to just be at one place. You don't want the money to be sitting at your bank account or your broker account. What you want is to give it some movement, but in a way that once it moves through different locations, it collects more money. So for example, a little bit of the system that I have going on is I'm gonna do the trades, then whatever profits I get, I'm gonna leave just like a 10-15% of every profit into the stock account. So it can grow into the broker account, so it can grow, and the rest of it is probably gonna go straight to my bank account. So then I can transfer it to what's essentially just reselling products. I still need to get contacts and conversations going with a few suppliers, but I have a few stores that give me products that are like at $8 each product, and they can sell for 40, 50, 60 online, which is not bad. The I usually sell them on eBay, um, sometimes on Facebook Marketplace, and I get whatever profit is left, and that profit then I inject it into a bigger investment, or like with time it will be like something bigger, like maybe invest on a car, fix it a little bit, resell it, um, and then all that profit is going back into uh, the broker account, so I can have more capital every time to trade with. So eventually, or like I'll have enough capital on my broker account so that a single good trade can allow me to invest on bigger things like real estate. And when I come to that point, then real estate will basically just give me like a main source of income that is passively, so that I don't have to do anything, that I don't have to work at all just to get the money to my bank account. So that's the end goal. But for now, it's just trade, take the profits, buy products from suppliers, resell them to users, to customers, clients, and then the profits of that injected back into the broker account to kind of have a little cycle going of getting more money every time the money moves. Then I also talked up with my roommates about moving in. Um, for the ones that don't know, I'm going to university right now. I'm going to college here in Texas, and I just got my first apartment. Signed the lease a couple months ago, and on Tuesday the 15th, me and my roommates had our first conversation about expectations and some of the things we wanted to get started on when it comes to just bringing silverware, cooking supplies, a little bit of how we want the whole setup of the common areas, at least the living room, the kitchen, the dining place, how we want everything kind of like to look. So, and then we also got to catch up with each other. Those are some really great friends that I have. So we got to catch up a little bit, and then actually with one of my friends, I got to discuss a little bit of, I guess we engaged in sort of an interchange of ideas or exchange of ideas, which I'm gonna talk a little bit more about in a second. Then we have Wednesday, July 16. That was Rosary Wednesday. Usually when I'm in college and when I'm with my group pescadores, shout out to all my pesca people, always in my heart. We have this thing called, it's not really called that, but I usually know it as Rosary Wednesdays. So every single week we come on Wednesday to the statue of Mary right there in our church, and we pray the Rosary. And there's a lot of people that pulled up. Last year we were probably averaging, like, on normal like school days, no holidays, we're probably averaging out 20 people, maybe more or less. So it was pretty good. Um, that's why I want to get that still going. I want to keep that as a habit because it is a good habit for my spiritual health or spiritual life, and also for my mental health. Being always reminded that there is a higher, being that is looking out for you, and that no matter what you do, he's always gonna love you, and then You know, the rosary just fills you up with love from Mother Mary, which is also like another great thing that keeps you going. That makes sure makes sure that you keep your peace on your life, because that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to lose your peace, especially on times of storm. So that was my Wednesday. Then we have Thursday, the 17th. I had a business call with my friend. Um, I'm not gonna mention his name because he didn't want me to. But we talked for about an hour and a half. We exchanged some ideas, uh, how we wanted to, I guess, start you know, or entrepreneurial journey. He wanted to start doing digital reselling, which is part of the cycle I was explaining about. So I wish the best luck to him. If you're looking this, you know who you are. So best of luck, brother. If you need anything, I'm here for you. Then we have Friday, the 18th. I funded the account with $90. So that's the initial amount I have on my account, and from that, we'll start growing my account. And well, I mean, overall, I guess my whole money, all the money I have, because I think after I put those 90 into the broker account, I think I was under probably $10 on my bank account. So it's rough, but you gotta trust the process. I mean, if people like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, if people who became monsters in the industries they went into, and by monsters I mean the best of the best in the industries they went into, if they were broke in their journey to become who they are today, then what right do I have to say that I won't be broke? So I expect to, be broke, although I reject that word. I immediately reject the word broke, because believe it or not, your body does not know the difference. You might say it as a joke sometimes. You might use negative words, negative connotation when you're referring yourself, but just know that your body does not know the difference. So chances are you're filling your body with all this negative aura, um, and that's why things are not working out sometimes for you. So if you change the way you refer to yourself and the way you talk about yourself and about things that are within your life, then that's where you are gonna start seeing some real changes. And I can attest to that because I've changed the way I've been speaking lately, especially about myself, and it has worked wonders. So I totally recommend that. What else? I also called a friend that night. Um, I guess I had a lot of pressure and a lot of worries when it came to some aspects in my life, especially in the academic life and my business life, I guess. With all these projects of the podcast and then the trading too, some worries about the reselling, and I was feeling a lot of pressure that was definitely wearing me down. But I talked to a friend about it. He gave me some great advice, and then we ended up talking also about our spiritual life. Um, so it was great. It was great talking to you, man. You know who you are again. So I'm always praying for you. I'm always gonna look out for you, brother. So if you need anything, I'm always here. So yeah, that was my Friday. Then my Saturday, it was my first day at a new job. So I live in San Antonio, and we have this thing called the Alamo Dome, which is a big stadium. It's usually the stadium where um, UTSA plays. their opponents on football, and that's American football. Because for me, there's only one football. Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. It's not called soccer; it's called football. So that's besides the point. That was my Saturday. This 19th was my first day at a job, which was basically all about cleaning up the Alamo Dome. And I got in like at 9. I had to wait like 2 hours while they were emptying out, where like all the bands, because it was a band competition that was going on that day at the Alamo Dome. They were exiting everybody out, so we had to wait for everybody to get out before we could get in and clean up everything. And I was cleaning up the bleachers. I was sweeping, mopping. Uh, so yeah, that was my first day on the job. It is not an ideal job because it was like 9 p.m. to almost 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and the pay is not that really high, but I can take as much money as I can get. I'm taking as much money as I can get because I have a vision, because I know where I'm going, and I know this is only going to be temporary. So every source of income that I can get right now, it's welcome into my life, because then I know I'm gonna reinvest it and use it to trade stocks, which then are gonna all that money is gonna enter that cycle I was talking about, and then generate more money until basically I can sort of way fuel that system enough so that it can run in itself, and basically I can dedicate myself to some other projects that I have going on in the future. Lastly, the 20th, which was Sunday, yesterday, a complete rest day. I was not doing anything. Wake up, got some good breakfast, made the groceries of the week, went with my family to church. That was super nice, super healing. Then I also met with a friend. Um, she's so cool. I got to talk to her for a little bit, got to catch up for a little bit, so that was super nice. And then I went to my tia's. Happy birthday. Feliz cumpleaños, tía. Espero que te la hayas pasado bien. So it was a complete rest day. I did not look anything related to trading, anything related to the podcast. I was not worrying about this week, because I know that this week was gonna take care of itself. So that was my entire week. And from all those days that I just mentioned, I went to the gym, try to stay active. I was looking at the market, still practicing with paper money. I don't think I'll ever gonna leave paper money, because that's the best way to practice, especially on those higher trades that you know that will represent almost all your account, which is something I don't really like doing, and I'll explain why in a second. So from all the past week, I've learned different lessons. First, I learned that I am not a day trader, but I'm actually an investor in the stock market. And why is that? Like I was saying, there's a couple of trades that I could do, but that will take almost all my account, or more than all my account, for me to be able to do them. And yes, I could see bigger profits from that, but just keep in mind that even if I see bigger profits than that, what if, in the worst case scenario, what if instead of going positive, I'll go negative? Then I would just destroy and blow out my first account. And that's not optimal. That's definitely not optimal to do. So that's why I'm an investor, because I take only 10% max of my whole account into every investment I do. The second difference is that I'm not all day looking at the screen, looking at the graphs. I'm not. I'm simply not. Because that's super stressful. That is sometimes even a waste of time, and that wears you down in the long run. I have strategies that only work by hours. So I trust the strategy, put in the investment, do the trade, and wait for it to hit my limit, which for those that don't know what limit is basically you're gonna put like a cap on your investment so that if let's say you had a limit of 100% of your investment, that will mean that if the stock market was to go the way you predicted it will go. And if it passes that mark that you had, then the system will automatically sell your trade and you will win that 100% without you doing anything. So it's buying the stock, or well, buying the options of the stock, putting the limit, let it do its thing based on the strategies, and then at the end of the day, once the market closes, or even the next day, you can look at your account and see if it hit it, if you double down your money, or where you're at in that process. Something else I learned this week is that a man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. And that's a quote by Phil Knight, which is the co-founder and former CEO of Nike Incorporated, which we all know. Probably most of you are wearing Nikes right now as you're watching this episode. He's a global leader in sportswear and equipment and a prominent philanthropist with a net worth estimated at $33 billion as of January 2025, which is massive. That is massive. And I got this quote from the book I'm reading, which I have it right here. It's called Shoe Dog, which explains like the whole story of how he became the Shoe Dog. Basically, that was his nickname because he had to go through a lot to get started on his brand Nike. And the story it's heavy to see how much he had to do, and in a sort of sense how many social standards he had to break through to make sure that he could create a market for Japanese tigers, which was a type of running shoe back in the day, Japanese tigers, and introduce it into the US market, which was one of like the very first examples of manufacturing abroad, get them here, and then reselling domestically. So I totally recommend the book. I've also tried to listen to some of the most successful podcasters to enrich my knowledge on how to talk, how to manage a podcast, and how to provide value to you, to my people, you know. So first is The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. That was the first ever podcast I've heard of and I've actively listened to. Stephen Bartlett is a British entrepreneur, investor, author, speaker, and podcaster, like I said. He dropped out of university at 18. By 21, he co-founded Social Change, which is a social media marketing agency, which went public in Germany and making him a millionaire by 23, which is, of course, one of my goals, to become a millionaire. Especially, hopefully before 25. In 2017, he started The Diary of a CEO, which is a podcast I've been listening to. And he is in Spotify's Global Top 5 on that podcast in 2024 and has over 1 billion streams, which is not the goal of this podcast, but if we get there, I won't mind, honestly. I don't know if anybody will mind for that many people to listen to. Although now that I think about it, for all that people to listen to me might be a little bit of a pressure, but I wouldn't mind it. As of right now, I wouldn't mind it. Then we have another podcast, Modern Wisdom by Chris Williamson. He was a British broadcaster, former reality TV star, which he made an appearance on Love Island, which I know some people are into that right now. But I believe that was Love Island UK on 2015. And then he went into becoming a club promoter. He's also a public speaker and entrepreneur. He is, in comparison to Steven, he studied business management and got his bachelor's on that, and then he got a master's on international marketing. He launched Modern Wisdom in 2018, so he was one of those early pioneers of the podcasting world in Spotify, especially the group of podcasters who are really solidified on Spotify and on YouTube, which makes him have over 400 million downloads and 3.5 million YouTube subscribers. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to learn from those two as much as possible because I'm really fascinated with the work, the way they go about sharing their lives and interviewing other people to provide value to their viewers. So something else I learned, the most important change you can make in your life are stop breaking the promises you make to yourself, even if nobody's watching. I don't know if you notice sometimes, and I can speak for myself, of course, that maybe one day you feel the motivation, as I was talking in my first episode, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna start doing my first podcast, for example, and I'm gonna make it about this. I'm gonna make it about my family history, and then I'm also gonna use it as a journal to put in everything I'm doing right now and keep myself accountable. But then what happens? The first episode, you do it, post it. The second episode, you do it, you post it. The third episode, you do it, you post it. But then after that, you don't post anything. Where does that leave you? Maybe there's nobody who's listening to you, nobody who's watching your content. So you said, okay, that's fine. I'll just leave it. It was good while it lasted. I mean, you made a promise to yourself. So are you gonna let yourself down? And people don't look at it that way. They are like, oh, it's whatever, because it wasn't for nobody. Are you nobody? Of course you're somebody. That's why you're listening to me. That's why you're doing what you're doing, and that's why you're good at what you're good at, and you're bad at what you're bad at. You have personality. You are somebody. So you gotta understand that breaking these promises to yourself, it's even worse than breaking a promise to anybody in your life. So you gotta be careful with that. And I learned that. And that's why I'm doing this fourth episode overall in my podcast and YouTube channel. Because I did learn from Chris Williamson in his Modern Wisdom podcast that only 10% of overall podcasters out there make it past their third episode, and of that 10%, only 10% will ever make it past episode 20. So by doing 21 episodes, you'll be part of that 1%, and that's what I'm striving for. Just being consistent. Maybe I don't want to do it, and honestly, I spend hours trying to avoid recording this first entry of the new series, but I know I had to get it done. I knew I had to get it done because I did a promise to myself, and God forbid that I will ever let myself down again. So there's that. Second, one of the most important changes you can make in your life right now is to look at the sun's light before you look at your phone's light. Why is that? Have you noticed that when you wake up and you wake up to your phone alarm, you look up to your phone and then you start looking up through Instagram or through your emails or through your messages, whatever the case might be. And then the rest of the day, you just feel like you're drying yourself. Maybe you're doom scrolling every chance you get and you're not being productive at all. It's probably because of your phone's light. So your phone emits a blue light that tries to emulate the sun's light, but the sun's light has certain properties and vitamins that are great for your skin and to activate your overall body clock, they call it, so you can get going in your morning and throughout your day. And when everything goes dark at night, then your body clock will tell your entire body that it's time to rest. But when you overuse your phone, then that blue light messes up your body clock and starts messing up with the good habits of waking up with energy and going to sleep tired, or going or making it easier to sleep. So one physical change that you can make is to buy one of those old-fashioned clocks and just set it up as an alarm while putting your phone outside your dorm and making sure that you see the sunlight before you see your phone's light. And last, third but not least, like journaling, what I've learned from these podcasters is that the next step from journaling, what happens throughout your day, which journaling has incredible great benefits to your overall health and productivity and to understanding who you are in different types of situations throughout different days of your life, therefore allowing you to see a more clear vision of the areas you gotta put more emphasis on and take care a little bit more for you to keep developing, keep improving your overall character and your overall skills in your hobbies or your work, etc. So like journaling, doing a podcast for 30 minutes, it's in a sort of way has the same benefits of it, but it adds something more to it, which is speaking things. And by speaking things, like I said, words are really powerful when they are spoken. So by speaking something into existence, you're throwing it out in the universe, and based on one of Newton's laws of the universe and how it works, every action has an equal or opposite reaction. So if you speak words into the existence, which is also scientifically or psychologically known as, in a sort of way, throwing energy into the universe, it will come back to you. So if you throw something negative out in the universe, most likely that negativity is going to come back to you, to your life. If you speak something positive, then the universe is going to give you something positive back. And that's where the phrase comes from, of speaking into existence, as I understand it, of course. So if you guys can do a podcast, even if you don't make it public, but at least do a podcast for 30 minutes a week, where you can either talk alone or even talk with your friends about a certain topic. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be whatever you want it to be. But as long as you record it and you speak about it, then it will really set up a nice path for you to look back into and find out more about how your thought process, thought of process of thought, something along those lines. How your process of thought really works, and therefore you will get to know yourself better. Because let's be honest, you don't really ever get to know yourself entirely, but you can know yourself a little bit better every day to make your life a little bit more optimal for your characteristics and your traits. Something else I learned is that throughout the week is that you were not meant to do it alone. And got this idea from Chris Williamson's episode with Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek is globally a recognized thought leader who teaches that great leaders start with why, which I was talking also about in my first episode of how the why is more important than anything when you're trying to accomplish something, whether that's small or big. Through selling best-selling books, Bartlett talks, he's helped redefine leadership around purpose, trust, and long-term vision, which has allowed him to work with companies like Microsoft, Disney, and the US military to make them into who they are, to develop the systems that have sustained these companies into the top tier at their fields for a really long time. He also advocates that leaders and organizations who clearly define why they do what they do inspire more loyalty and success overall. Great episode to hear. If you get a chance, go watch that episode on Modern Wisdom. And he said a phrase that I really love, is that when you're trying to help somebody out, even if it's yourself, you gotta remind yourself, and we gotta remind ourselves that here we are, you and me, and we're not alone. We're social creatures. We were never meant to do it alone. However, we are. This new society tries to sell us the idea of, escaping the matrix by ourselves, becoming the lone wolf, doing everything by your own means, and then at the end of the day, just giving credit to ourselves. Yes, some people that's has worked for them initially, but at the end of the day, throughout their journey, they always needed somebody to get to the next step. There is no one in the world that did everything for themselves to become successful. There's always people in the journey that either help you or they challenge you. And through challenge, they push you to be better at whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So that way you can become more suitable for the benefits of accomplishing that one goal that you have. So we're always dependent on other people. And that's why it's so important, like I said on episode 2, I believe, that you gotta watch out your close circle of friends. Because those people, if they are not pushing you to be better, if they are not challenge you to prove them wrong, if in a sort of way they are providing a comfortable environment where everything is just flowers and roses, then you need to go out there and find some more friends that will support you through the journey, or at least challenge you to become better. So yeah, the full independence culture, it's a lie. So make sure you're trying to meet new people, and the ones that support you, keep them as close as you can, and make sure you also support them or challenge them to become the better versions that we know they could be. that we know that they can be. Mm, Last lesson I learned: be grateful with the opportunities you have. You do not know how much longer you have them. I got this from a movie, and I recommend all of you watching it, especially in my Latino community on these times. I recommend watching Una Mejor Vida in Amazon Prime. It personally connected to me to the situation that some of my family is going through. And in that movie, maybe the whole message was not the one I got, but still I got the lesson from it regardless. And the whole plot of the movie was that one day you are here in this position, in this country, in this job, with these circumstances, but the next day life might just kick you out of that comfort zone that you have built around yourself, or maybe it will just try to knock you down, or it will knock you down on your way of improving your life opportunities. And this affects me personally because I've seen it happen a lot when I think I'm doing great in my life, or now that I look back at it, I was doing great, but I was not being grateful with what I had at the moment, with the opportunities I had, with the type of people I had at the moment. I was not grateful for that. And out of nowhere, those opportunities that I had were gone. And I regret not have taken them. I definitely do regret some more than others. And also I regret not being grateful with some people that were back in my day. Some people that I didn't treat with the respect they deserve. But this is why this is so good, being able to understand that maybe you have a million problems that are taking up all your headspace right now. But sometimes it's just great to press the pause button and just to realize how many great things you have in your life at the moment. Because by the time you notice those beautiful things that you have in your life, all those blessings that God has sent your way, it will be too late because they'll be long gone. So be in the present. Don't let all the worries of tomorrow steal all your joy from the things you have today. Because that's a vicious cycle that I do not wish anybody to get themselves involved on. So those were kind of like a few of the things that I've learned throughout this week. And unlike the other episodes, which I tend to edit because those are really long talks, and sometimes I give time for the people who I am interviewing. I give them time to answer, to think it through, but then I edit it out so that I can keep it as short as possible, because I know that our lives right now are really rushed, and we want to get to that point. We want to get straight into it. But this series is gonna have shorter episodes This is probably gonna be one of the longest ones because I intended to be between 30 to 40 minutes. But I still want to keep it original and genuine. And this will allow me also to become a little bit more fluent with the path from ideas into words that I'm speaking. And then it will also allow me to criticize myself more heavily so that I can improve the way I deliver the information and the way I talk to the camera. And even also realize how people perceive me as I talk and also improve on that aspect so in social situations I can make sure I provide as much value to people who are having a conversation with me without over explaining stuff, if that makes sense. So to close this episode off, I have some expectations I want to share um, with the universe, if you will, for the upcoming week. So first, this week I have my broker account, my trade account ready to go. I have $90 funded on the account. So my intention is to make my very first trade, to keep myself disciplined, and aim to get back a positive result from it, no matter how small it is, because I am a person that believes that small wins will accumulate into bigger ones instead of trying always to catch the bigger win. But once you catch a bigger win, that one still doesn't make all the losses you took to try to catch that one. So we're gonna go step by step, not let other emotions, or at least my emotions, get on the way of doing the things right, doing the things based on the strategies and what I've learned this summer. So I'll make my very first trade, and I'll probably let you guys know how that goes next week on the next episode of this series. Next, it will be 10 minutes per day of intentional spiritual time. I think I've been reciting a lot instead of praying. So reciting is basically you just speaking words without intention. But if you're not really putting intention, then are you really having a conversation or you just go autopilot? Therefore, your words that you just prayed about have no meaning. So that's something I'm trying to change. I'm gonna start a little small, 10 minutes per day of intentional and spiritual time where I concentrate full focus in my relationship with God, and then I'll just increase it progressive overload for all my gym bros out there. I'll do progressive overload on it, more minutes every week. But 10 minutes per day, intentional spiritual time. Then I gotta finish reading half of my mentor's trading book. So far, I've read 3 books, and I still need one more to sharpen a little bit more of my knowledge on the strategies that I've learned from him. And I think I should be good to go. Then I'm gonna finish reading completely Secret Fire, which is a book that one of my friends back in college let me borrow. It is super great. I totally recommend it. It talks about the concept of divine thirst from God, and it's so beautiful. Mother Teresa's story is definitely one to definitely admire and to try to follow. So it's a must to read because it also lets you know the perspective of God when it comes to looking at us, his children, and what he really wants from us. So thank you to the friend that let me borrow it. I'm almost gonna finish it, and hopefully by the time you see this episode, you will have it back in your hands. So God bless you for that. And I'm gonna finish at least half of Shoe Dog, which I already talked about. Um, Probably one fifth of the book done. So my goal is to do half at least this week. I have the time because I usually work from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. or maybe 4 p.m. to middle of the night. But the very morning I have for my own, so I'll try to make that as productive as I can. When it comes to my physical life, gym at least 3 times this week, outdoor exercising 2 times this week. Try to get a little bit of sun, natural air, so that way I can, touch grass a little bit because I'm over here like almost the whole day just looking at the computer, studying the trades, looking at the trends for the grass, or even just editing the podcast. So I'll try to go outdoor a little bit, touch grass. One day of active recovery at home. That's probably just gonna be stretching or even an ab workout at home. Shouldn't be too bad. And then, last but not least, I'll set up another interview for this week and finish my pre-interview survey. So this week I had no interviews because some of the people that I want to interview they were working or they were busy or they were traveling. So hopefully, and my goal is to try to lock an interview for this weekend or throughout the week so I can record it, I can edit it, and I can place it into the podcast so I can give some continuation to the main series of the podcast and the YouTube channel. And then, like as I mentioned, my pre-interview survey. Some of you guys that are my friends, really close friends, that I thank God for having you in my life. I want to interview. I want to interview you. I want to talk to you guys. So, but I want to talk about what you want to talk about. I don't want to talk about what I want to talk about because people already have enough from these episodes, especially this new series, which is just mainly about me. So people are probably already tired of hearing me jab and jab and jab. So I wanna make sure I talk about the topics that you wanna talk about, some of the hobbies that you have, some of the aspirations you have, maybe some life situations that you went through. What are you going through right now currently? That type of stuff to have some variety on the podcast. And that should be it for today. Uh, 50 minutes. Like I said, this is probably one of the longest ones because I had to do the whole explanation and I still working on the scripts for each one of the episodes. And I promise that the next one, of course, is gonna have higher quality. I've changed a few things so that you guys can see me more clearly, so that the whole setup and the lights are a little bit more comfortable to you guys. And with that being said, this is the end of this first episode of Bitácora 0721 2025. Thank you for staying here and watching me jab about my life. I hope you have a great start of your week, and I'll see you on the next one. So, good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Everett. Thank you for watching my podcast, Chilerísimo, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.